Episode 16 of the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast with Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler. I'm Brennan, and we hope you all enjoyed our bye week, but it is time to look forward to Baylor. The Baylor Bears will be coming to Lubbock, and that means it is officially Baylor Hate Week. So before we get into it, boys, how are we doing this Monday? And did y'all enjoy a restful bye week?
I did, yeah. I'm feeling good. It's always nice to be able to talk trash to other fan bases without having to worry that your team might lose later in the day. So I love the bye week.
And you got engaged, Clayton. Shout out to
Clayton,
to
congratulations,
you.
man.
Successful weekend for you, my man.
Yes,
it was a good week. I thought the football was really good, especially some stuff outside of the Big 12. But the Big 12 delivered again. It was a lot of fun. I think the conference race is really shaping up. Whereas I thought there were probably 11 teams that were in contention last week, I think it's down to probably 7. So a lot of interesting stuff this week.
Yeah, it was a good week for sure. I mean, I'm happy that we're still at the top of the Big 12, which is great to see. And you've got a lot to look forward to this week. But it was a good weekend. I hope the team had a restful weekend off and are able to get healthy before this week when we play Baylor.
Yeah, man. Clayton, congratulations. You got a ring. Maybe Tech will be adding some hardware later this year. We'll find out. But we also had CJ Baskerville on our show last week. If you haven't seen that episode, go check it out on our YouTube channel at the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe. There'll be a link in the description of this episode as well for CJ's hats. He's got an awesome hat brand with some cool Red Raider stuff on there. So get your hat there in our link below as well. So Conrad, usually we have a Kool-Aid flavor of the week. We're going to postpone that to Thursday's episode, but we're going to do something a little special to start off Baylor Hate Week this week. Conrad, you've got quite the disdain for Baylor is probably the right word to use. And not just Baylor, but where it's also located in the city of Texas. And there is quite the beef between Waco and Lubbock. So you've put something together for us. If you're not watching on our YouTube channel or on Spotify, we've got a little slideshow presentation that Conrad's put together. So Conrad, we'll get to the Kool-Aid here on Thursday, but what do you got for us today with the Lubbock versus Waco?
Well, thank you all, first and foremost, to coming to my presentation. I really appreciate your attendance, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the verdict is at the end of these few slides. So, as you know, we've played Cincinnati, we've played Waco, we've played Arizona, but there just is something special when you play a school within Texas that you have a history with and you have some disdain for. Texas Tech and Baylor do not like each other very much. It's been something that's been well documented over the few years that we've been playing, which is quite a long time. But I wanted to take a moment and just think about the city of Lubbock and the city of Waco. I have a lot of fans who tell me and friends who told me Waco is so much better than Lubbock. I disagree. I would say, in the words of a famous politician, they are wrong. But I want to make sure that we're on the record. The Broadway Shuffle's on the record with our belief in Lubbock, Texas, and our dislike of Waco. So we're going to start off with talking about food. That's a big part of a city. You've got some different foods in Waco. I've eaten at a few of these places: Health Camp, George's, Ninfa's, and Shorty's Pizza. This is a consensus from Waco faithful, from some Baylor alumni that I was communicating with earlier today. And I need to tell you guys, Ninfa's is okay. George's is not very good. Health Camp tastes like it's from 1935, and then Shorty's is actually pretty good. So I'll give some credit to Shorty's there, but George's and Health Camp, guys, I'm sorry, it's just not anything special. I don't know why you guys think your food is good. It's not the best, but we'll let you live in your own little world. Lubbock, however, friends, Lubbock food is probably the best food on the face of the earth. You've got Bankies, you've got the fried cheese, you've got Capital Pizza, gourmet pizza. I have yet to have better pizza anywhere in the world than Lubbock, Texas, and Capital Pizza. You've got Orlando's. You've got Evie Mae's, a top 5 barbecue place in the state of Texas. You've got Las Barisas if you want steak. And then you have a new place that's come on the scene recently in the last few years called Dirk's, where you're going to find the best chicken tenders that you could ever want. They make every other place look awful. Now I want to look at coffee.
Wow, we're going even coffee made the show today.
Yeah, we're going to coffee because coffee is another part of a city. It's like the heartbeat of the city. When you've got good coffee, you've got a lot to offer. And Waco might think that they have good coffee, but it's not the best. And I want to specifically zero in on the two on the left that you're seeing there. The top is Common Grounds. This place has seemingly taken over the coffee world in Texas at a time or two in the last few years. And I'm no expert, but when I look at that picture, I think homeless shelter. I don't think coffee house. I think homeless shelter. So I'm not sure what's going on there at Common Grounds. And then you've got below that Magnolia Press. I have been there. The coffee is average. It's not bad. Very modern. Very nice. That's Chip and Joanna Gaines' spot. But Waco coffee is okay from top to bottom. It's nothing great, nothing special. But Lubbock coffee. Most people would not expect this at all. Lubbock has the best coffee in the world. You have so much to choose from. You can never go wrong. You've got Monmouth coffee down by the university. They roast their own beans. Their vanilla lattes are fantastic, unbelievable. Then on the top right, you've got Gold Stripe coffee, fantastic coffee as well. Then you have J&B coffee, which is probably the worst of these four. But if you like burnt coffee or really sugary drinks, that's where you need to go in Lubbock, Texas. There's also a Capital Pizza right next door. And then on the bottom left, my personal favorite, Sugar Brown's Coffee Co. Oh man, the coffee is fantastic. But what takes Sugar Brown's to the next level is the kolaches. They are straight from heaven, delivered by angels every single day. These kolaches have seasoning on top, cheese on the inside, are unbelievable. You have to have one. For all the Baylor Bears that are traveling to Lubbock for this game that you're watching this podcast, you have to go to Sugar Brown's on Indiana and get you a kolache and a black coffee. Fantastic. And then lastly, we need to talk about where these two cities are located. Waco is about hour and a half, hour 45 south of Dallas. Then you have Lubbock out there in what we call God's country, West Texas. Some people say that Lubbock is just too far. That it's not a city you'd ever want to live in because it's so far. Well, again, in the words of a famous politician, you are wrong. And I need to tell you that Lubbock being where it is also what makes it what it is. So Baylor, Waco being where it is, that's all right. That's fine. But the geographic location of Lubbock in West Texas with God's country out there, that's where you want to be. So that is my little, I don't know if it's a rant or a presentation, whatever you want to call it. That is my opinion of Waco and Lubbock. Obviously, I'm on Team Lubbock, believe in Lubbock, love Lubbock, miss Lubbock. It's a fantastic place. So if you would like to live in one of the two cities, you can check out at Lubbock Living on YouTube as well and learn all that you want to learn about Lubbock, Texas. So friends, family, loyal listeners of the Broadway Shuffle, Lubbock, Texas is where you want to be.
Wow. Amen, man. Amen. Zyler, thoughts on that? Any disagreements there?
No, I thought you did a really comprehensive job. I don't know that anybody could object to that. It was very thorough. Only 3 slides. That's all you need to really make a compelling case. And I thought you did that masterfully.
Clayton?
Yeah, I loved it. I'm honestly speechless. I'm at a loss for words.
You did fail. The caviar of the South Plains is Taco Villa, so I thought that maybe deserved a shout out. But I think everything else was done.
I will speak.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I will speak on the location of Lubbock. I feel like we always get trashed because people only think about it in reference to Texas. Like, oh, you're so far from Dallas, you're so far from Austin. But we are the closest city to the mountains. So that's a part that nobody thinks about. You know, Facts. You can go ski. You can be skiing 4 hours later from Lubbock. So,
Yeah, Conrad, phenomenal job. I love every place. I have traveled the world, and you know, you're right. I've been to Italy. The pizza there just does not compare to Capital Pizza. The coffee just Spain, Italy, England, everywhere I've been in Europe or in America for that matter, it just doesn't compare to Sugar Brown's, Capital Pizza, Dirk's. I mean, those 3 places. Spanky. I mean, I'm more of a Blue Sky guy myself, but regardless, man, great job. Waco, the only thing it has going for it is it's between Austin and Dallas. That's quite frankly it. The city of Waco is just almost pointless. And if Chip and Joanna Gaines, I know you like listen to the show. We don't really care about you guys. It doesn't. Y'all are the only thing you got there. We could care less. We've got. Who do we have in Lubbock? I don't even know. We've got Bahama Bucks.
Yeah, we got Bahama Bucks. What are you talking about?
We
had Bart Rager.
We had Bart Rager. We've got all we need there. So
the Gorilla.
Yes. How could I forget about the Gorilla? So we've got everything we need in Lubbock. We love it. Lubbock over Waco any day of the week. So thank you for tuning into our episode, and you can catch us next time on the Broadway Shuffle. Okay. Well, that was awesome. Go ahead, Conrad.
Let me just say this too: the graphics may not have been top notch, but I think the content was tip top. So we're all Lubbock believers here. Waco fans, Baylor alumni that are listening this week, as we're sure you are. Let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know if we picked the right places. If you disagree, let us know. If you agree that Lubbock is actually better than Waco, then let us know as well. And Raider fans, make sure you mixed up there with those Baylor faithful in the comments.
God, I would love nothing more than to finally get beef in our comment section. I've been waiting 7 weeks.
We need more haters.
We need some haters, and we need some Red Raider defenders to attack our haters for us too. So, all right, guys. Well, even though we didn't play, a lot happened this week. Just a bye week recap was good for Texas Tech as well too, because there were some games that happened here that are going to be positive for your hopes of competing for a Big 12 title. Arizona gets smoked by BYU. BYU actually looks pretty good too. I mean, I was watching that game, and it's kind of the first time I got to watch a full BYU game, and they do look like a team that has the right to compete for a Big 12 title. I'll just say that. I don't think they're a fraud. I don't think they'll make our Tommy Tuberville of the week this year. If you're a BYU Cougar fan, you have a lot to look forward to. And then UCF, talk about a potential Gus Malzahn, man, that they lose to Cincinnati at home. Arizona State got a key win against Utah. I know we'll talk about that. And then K-State defeats Colorado and Boulder. And then Iowa State goes into Morgantown and knocks off West Virginia. So there are 3 teams left that are now 3-0 in the conference: Texas Tech, BYU, and Iowa State. And then 4 teams that are 2-1: Arizona State, Kansas State, West Virginia, Cincy, and Colorado. That'd be 5 teams, actually.
That's my bad. That's a mistype on the outline.
You're good. And so, Clayton, I'll start with you, man. What are your overall thoughts for the Big 12 recap from this week? And I'll hold off on asking about Texas Tech specifically, but just other teams, other games. What are your thoughts about this week?
Yeah, you definitely hit it with BYU. They look really good. I feel like them and Iowa State are safely probably the 2 teams to beat in the conference. K-State might be right there as well. But I was impressed by Colorado last night as well. They've definitely come a long way from the start of the Dion era, being able to match up physically with a team like K-State. But yeah, and then Cincinnati and Arizona State have both been looking good, which makes your wins against those 2 teams look better right now. So I think it was a good week for Tech.
Z?
Yeah, I mean, I thought from an analytics perspective, you actually moved up 5 to 6 spots in S&P Plus over the weekend without even playing. So that's clearly showing that, the teams that you've beat, and then looking back on your resume, they were better than potentially expected. I think a lot of that is probably Cincinnati. That's a team that I guess I was maybe slightly higher than consensus on, but definitely not even in the top 10 for the Big 12. And I think they're very firmly in probably the top 8, wherever you may have them. I thought, Arizona is addicted to shooting themselves in the foot. Like they were playing with BYU. They were in the game. They just make very poor decisions at very critical moments. Fafita's regressed a ton. That offensive staff or whatever they've got going, it's not working. They are decimated by injuries. They lost to Cario Davis in that game. Traden Stukes is out for the season. Jacob Manu got ejected on a really bad targeting call. So they had some things working against them, and I think they're probably better than what that score indicated. But I think BYU is legit, and their schedule the rest of the year is not anything that really terrifies you. If you're a BYU fan, they're going to go, after this, they play Oklahoma State at home. They go to UCF, then they get a bye. They go to Utah. They get Kansas at home. Then they go to Arizona State and then home against Houston. I don't think they'll run the table there, but I'll be shocked if BYU ends up with more than 2 losses. I imagine they're going to be favored in probably all of those games except maybe at Utah. So they're in a really good spot. Beating Kansas State early at home was a huge win for them and a huge win for their chances. UCF is the team that I think I was most wrong about. We were talking about that before we started, but I thought they were going to be significantly better. I had a Cincinnati guy I saw on Twitter today. He was talking about how Gus Malzahn's actually on the Tommy Tuberville track where he has, 8 to 9 win seasons the first 2 years and then has a 6-win season and then doesn't make a bowl game in the 4th season and then gets fired. That's exactly what Tommy Tuberville did at Cincinnati. So Gus Malzahn is on the Tommy Tuberville fraud watch list. Very interesting trajectory for that program. And then the Utah game. Did anybody watch this? I know it was a late game on Friday. Dude, yeah. Cam Rising is, and we can talk a little bit more about this, but he looks so incredibly injured. I mean, he looks like he can't move and he also can't grip the football. Those are two things that make it very hard to play the quarterback position. I'm not sure we have a good idea. Like, I think a lot of teams are going to get fortunate if they got to play Utah earlier in the year while he's not healthy. Their offense just does not work. It does not work with the way he is right now. I don't know if y'all had thoughts on that game.
Yeah, it was honestly quite hard to watch. I mean, he was throwing 4-yard passes into the ground. Like no grip on the ball. He threw 3 interceptions. It was rough. Yes, Conrad loves hating on Cam Rising. Cam Rising might be Conrad's least favorite player in college football, actually, I think. But it was good for you because you're now looking at some of these teams, Utah with 2 losses, Oklahoma State with 3 losses, Kansas with 3 losses, Baylor with 3 losses. Every team that has 2 losses plus in the conference now is suddenly, you kind of have a cushion on them. Where now if you go and beat Baylor this week, you are now highly increasing the chance that you can compete for a Big 12 title because you now have a cushion. And so even though it hurts to see Cam Rising play like that, I'm a big fan of him. It was great for your football program. And Conrad likes the laughing button to anytime Cam Rising is named. So
this was interesting too. I mean, Colorado, as I believe was mentioned earlier, they look so much better than last year, and they don't they're not necessarily at the level of contender, I wouldn't think, but they really have improved a tremendous amount to only lose to Kansas State by 3. That's a big step for that program, and so I think you're going to see Colorado move in the right direction over the next couple of years. Maybe that's different without Shadur next year and Travis Hunter, but we'll see. I do think, looking at BYU, I don't know if anyone, I know we didn't, or anyone else thought that they would be what they are right now. And as they continue to get better, because I do think they're getting better as the season's gone on, that's going to be scary for the teams that they have to play. And assuming they continue this trajectory, if they make the Big 12 championship game, maybe a bigger fight than what people initially thought with BYU this year. So that was interesting to me. And then thinking about Kansas State too, I do think Kansas State is turning the right direction with their offensive coordinator, which I wish wasn't the case, but I do think that they have seemed to figure a thing or two out. So we'll see what happens with them. But the Big 12 is getting really interesting as time goes on.
Yeah, I still, Avery Johnson on like 5 to 12 yard passes is still wildly inaccurate, like way more inaccurate than he should be at this point. But he still has a decent deep ball, and he's obviously probably a top 5 athlete in the conference. So big threat on the ground. Kansas State did get fortunate. Travis Hunter gets knocked out in the first half of that game, and they don't have Jimmy Horn. So they're down their 2 top receivers, and they tried to give the game away. I think that was pretty fortunate for, Kansas State. I bet Travis Hunter probably makes a 3-point difference in that game. I would love if we didn't have to play against Travis Hunter. He's just such a game breaker at the receiver spot and at the cornerback position. Hopefully he's sealed the Heisman up by then and he chooses to sit out and preserve his NFL draft status. I'm going to start that campaign. Travis needs to sit out the rest of the season. But yeah, Colorado, we talked about this a little bit. That roster, before the season, that roster is much better than it was last year. A lot of people were, they think it's the same old Colorado. They added a lot of talent. That offensive line is still a problem, but yeah, they're good. That's not going to be a walk in the park.
So of the 8 teams that are 2-1 and 3-0, which team and what team or teams in your mind are going to fall off the fastest? So like, which kind of these 8 teams do you expect to not hang around, come November 1st? And you can't answer Tech.
I can go with, I don't know anyone's schedules off the top of my head, but for me, I would be surprised if the two teams in Arlington are not in the group of BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, Tech, and Colorado. So I guess with that logic, Arizona State, Cincinnati, is West
Yeah.
Virginia the other one?
West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, then yeah, I guess those are the teams I would.
And Arizona
choose
State
to
and
follow.
Cincinnati play each other this week, so that won't be an elimination game, but it'll kind of de facto be that. And Cincinnati has such a rough stretch to end the year. They go to Colorado, then they have home against West Virginia, then they go at Iowa State, at Kansas State, and then home against TCU. I think that team is good, and I think they can compete, and they'll probably win some of those games. I think that schedule on the back half is just going to be a little bit too much for them to overcome, even though I do think they're much improved from last year. That'd probably be my pick.
Yeah, I'd pick those as well, just because I do think you're going to see those teams kind of beat up on each other towards the end, and that is a very tough way to end the year as well. So, but I do think that if you're looking at the Big 12, and if you're not watching on YouTube, you can look at the screen and see the standings as we're talking. But as you look at the Big 12, it seems as if, BYU, Iowa State, Texas Tech, assuming Tech continues in the way that we have been, do seem to have a really good shot at going to Arlington if they just continue to win, because there are some tough games maybe so on their schedules, but it does seem a little bit more of a clear path for them than it does the other schools that were just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like right now, you want Arizona to win. You want Arizona to go beat Colorado. You want Arizona State and Cincy to even go win. One of them will lose this weekend, which will be good too. But then you want maybe the team that loses that to go knock off some teams. Like as long as you take care of business at home against Baylor, and you see some of these other teams now drop to 2 losses, you're going to be in the top 4 or 5 odds of making it to Arlington. And so my question really becomes: is Texas Tech a serious contender for Arlington, or are we still on the outside looking in when it comes to playing in the Big 12 championship? Z?
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess my definition of serious, like I think you have, greater than a 10% chance, which is probably higher than what I thought at the beginning of the year. You've got, the hardest part of your schedule is in the back half. So you haven't had some of these really big defining wins. I think the Arizona win was good. Does it look as strong now considering what Arizona is? Whereas if you told me you won that game at the beginning of the season, I'd be, very, very impressed. Now I'm just like, oh, okay. So I'm not sure. I think you beat Baylor and you're 4-0. Anything can happen. There's going to be teams that, self-exit and implode, but you've got an opportunity and you're in it. The nice thing that you have, and you were hoping, that Colorado could win and hoping that West Virginia could win, because, you play those teams and you play them at home. And if you beat them, that gives you an automatic, not only do you get a 1 game up on them because you beat them, but also in a tiebreaker scenario. There's absolutely going to be tiebreakers used for the Big 12 title game, and you've got to find a way to maximize your chances there. I think it's much less likely that you beat Iowa State and Ames. And so having an opportunity for, West Virginia to be higher in the standings, I thought would have been a good thing. But you have a de facto 2-game lead on Cincinnati and Arizona State just because you've beaten them. They have to get a game ahead of you to jump you in the standings. So you'll be rooting for the teams that you've beaten. And it's just going to be tough. BYU's schedule is so favorable, and I think Iowa State's really good. But you definitely have a shot. You've given yourself an opportunity, and that's all you can really ask for 3 games into the conference standings.
Yeah, for sure. Clayton?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I would say we're one of the 2 best teams in the Big 12, but I think we have a fairly good shot at making the championship in Arlington. Kind of like Zyler mentioned, you have 3 road games left: TCU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. Iowa State, that one looks like it's going to be pretty difficult. If you can somehow beat TCU and Oklahoma State, I think you have a very good shot at being in Arlington. Even if you just win one of those, I think you'd have a chance depending on tiebreakers, but you'd obviously have to hold serve at home.
Yeah. And one thing too to make note of is right now, a lot of the projections for the Big 12 is Iowa State and BYU, but including the playoff, both of those teams are actually in the playoff if as of today, according to projection. So they're even saying that they could lose maybe, 1-2 games, and one of them would be the 4 seed and one would get an at-large. So right now people are respecting them to give at least the loser of that game or the loser of the Big 12 title game a potential at-large bid. So it's not like you can afford to drop a game to still get to Arlington, but you want to still try to knock off all these games because there's a chance that you could still get in if you don't win the conference. So that's something to still keep in mind as we're moving forward, that the Big 12 is being looked at as a fairly competitive conference with the opportunity to get more than one bid, which I don't think a lot of people thought at the beginning of the season. So Conrad, is Texas Tech a serious contender for Arlington?
Is Texas Tech a serious contender for Arlington? Absolutely. This is the new Big 12, guys. We absolutely have a chance. If our fans have been watching Red Raider football over the first couple of years of Joey McGuire's tenure, what does this team do as the season goes on? It gets better. It gets better. It gets better. So if we keep getting better and we get healthier and our offense gets better, our defense gets better, and our playmakers show up when we know they can, and we beat the teams we're supposed to beat, and we go on the road and beat teams that we know we can beat, that we have the talent to beat, absolutely we should be considered for Arlington, and you should be optimistic about that. I mean, we're 3-0. We've set ourselves up great. How could you not think that we've got a chance to get there? Now, we don't need to start thinking about it yet necessarily. We need to think about Baylor and then TCU and then Iowa State and then Colorado and then Oklahoma State and West Virginia. We absolutely need to start there, but we can absolutely get there. This team has the talent. You've got a quarterback, you've got a receiver, you've got a better offensive line than what you thought you had. You've got a defense that's improved with young players, and you've got a great coaching staff. So absolutely, you should expect to be considered for Arlington, and you should expect to potentially play there this year. But you just got to go 1-0 every week.
I love it, man.
You know, one thing that I will
Is the optimism too much?
No, not at all. Keep it here, baby. Kool-Aid.
You are 100%, and I know this may be tough for us, you are absolutely a massive Kansas fan the rest of the season because they play Kansas State, Iowa State, and BYU. Mm-hmm. Any of those teams picking up losses should benefit you. Iowa State and BYU don't play each other, so they could theoretically, I don't think they will, they could go undefeated, and you would have to go undefeated to match that. So you're a big Kansas fan the rest of the season and hope that they can find a way to knock off some of those teams.
That is not good news for Clayton.
Yeah, that's not what I wanted to hear.
It is hard for Clayton to have to root for the Kansas Jayhawks. Yeah. One question I had too is, what do we think of the new Big 12? We're halfway through the season. I mean, do we like the conference? Do you miss Texas and OU? Do you think the additions are stabilizing it? Is it more fun? I mean, what are your overall thoughts, Clayton, on the look of the conference now that we're halfway through the season?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know if this is going to be popular among Tex fans, but I do miss Texas and OU and just like the simplicity of a 10-team conference where everyone has the same schedule. Even when Texas was bad or OU was bad, I feel like it just, I don't know, there was like a feel that's different to it. And I definitely think this is a down year from what the new Big 12 can be. Like, I don't think Utah, OSU, probably TCU are going to stay as bad as they are right now. So I think the conference can get better in the future, but it does just kind of like, I don't know if it's just the newness, but I do sometimes miss the old Big 12, which is 10 teams, more regionalized, and the round robin schedule.
Yeah. Zyler.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll miss some of that brand power, but I think as far as competitive parity goes, for the last 10 years, I never thought we had a chance to win the conference. Like, if I realistically, told myself, do we have a shot to win this conference? The answer was never like yes. I feel like every year I'll be able to talk myself into, maybe we can win the conference. That's not going to happen every year. You may not even contend every year, but this is the first year in, what has it been? Probably since 2013, since I've thought, hey, dude, we're talking about the conference race 3 games into the schedule. That's not very deep into the schedule, and we haven't been able to do that in a long time. That is a ton of fun. The parity is really fun. If you like close games, it's going to be a ton of fun. There's a lot of teams battling it out. I think we need more star power from our coaches. There's just some of the other conferences have more characters, which I think the Big 12 needs. You need some more personalities, and I think that would help you a lot. There's just not a lot of teams that you love to hate watch, except maybe Colorado. That's the only team that maybe fits that bill. So we need some media members to be hyping us up irrationally. That's something that I think I miss a little bit, is hate watching other opponents in the conference. We have Conrad, but we need some other members to do that. Those are kind of my thoughts on the Big 12 so far.
Yeah. Conrad?
Yeah, I like it. I think, looking at looking at the conference from top to bottom, I do think you have more competitiveness than you necessarily did. Obviously, Texas and OU, they we know what they are. They're blue bloods of college football. They recruit really well. They develop well. Well, Texas does now. They didn't used to. But if you think about the Big 12 now in terms of the new, what it looks like and how games are played, and just the actual competitiveness you're seeing across the conference, it does seem to make it more entertaining. Because when Texas would go play, or when they were good in the early 2000s and they took the decade off, that was just not very. And then they came back. Now it just wasn't necessarily as fun to watch. But now you really don't know what you're going to get in terms of the conference. And looking at BYU, I mean, BYU and the old Big 12, you just would not have expected them to do what they're doing this year. We thought at the beginning of this year Utah was going to be good. They're not good. And so the volatility of the conference is something that makes it fun. And I think it keeps more schools and more fan bases invested, because more people actually think they have a chance to win the conference than they did before, because of the talent gap that you saw. So I like it. I'm for it. Sure, you can say you can say, well, you're weaker because you don't have Texas and OU. Well, I mean, yeah, maybe, but top to bottom, you've got a really good conference. Obviously, are you the SEC or the Big Ten? No, you're not. I'm not going to pretend you are, but you do seem like you're a conference that is only going to get better, and you're going to only encourage competitiveness across the board.
Another thing I'll add is one thing that I feel like could make the new conference a lot better is if they change the scheduling model to be like pods or protected games. Like I want to play Baylor, TCU, even Houston, Oklahoma State. I want to play those teams every year. And I feel like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but next year I think we only have like one road game in the state of Texas. It just doesn't feel right whenever, I mean, this year our first 3 games have been Arizona State, Cincinnati, Arizona, teams that you have pretty much no recent history with. So I think going to more regional games within the conference would also be an improvement.
Well, Clayton. I totally agree with that, because the thing is, we don't really. I have no ill will towards Arizona, Cincinnati, or Arizona State. It's just kind of whatever. They're schools that we play. But when you talk about Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, that just increases fan engagement, because rivalries are good for college football. Rivalries are what make college football. And so if you can have some of those protected games, that would increase every year we know, we're going to Fort Worth this year. Next year, though, they'll have to come to our place. You just don't have that anymore. So I like the new Big 12 in terms of competitiveness, but I don't know that I like the new Big 12 in terms of pageantry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. After watching Texas yesterday, I love the new Big 12. Just the fact that we don't have to play them. I guess I kind of wish we could play OU this year, maybe with their current state of their roster. But I mean, gosh, the reality is you're not on the same level as those teams. It's a different playing field, and it's clear. And so to kind of be bunched with a lot of teams similar to you, where you, Zyler, to your point, where you could win theoretically each week, is a lot more fun for me as a Red Raider. I don't care to have to go beat the best. I just want to beat who's on our schedule and be happy every Saturday night. And I just enjoy the fact that each week, like every Big 12 game at night, there's some crazy game happening. Whether, UCF TCU was crazy a couple weeks ago, Colorado, Kansas State, Colorado, Baylor, your game last week. So there's always some exciting things happening with these teams because they are so similar, and I love it. I know it might not get the national attention that these other conferences like the Big Ten and SEC will, but for us as a Tech fan, I think it's great. So,
but think about it too. I mean, this is not a conference, a conference comparison episode, but when you think about the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, you're talking about different things because there's different amounts of money involved. There are different TV contracts. There are different, things that have been set up in college football history and intercollegiate athletics. I mean, there's just a lot there. So people want to say, oh, the Big 12 is a terrible conference, or the Big 12 is that, the SEC is so much better, this and that and the other. And it's like, well, you can say all those things, but there's just a lot under the surface when you think about that. I mean, we talked about basketball a couple days ago. We are by far and away the best basketball conference in the country. It's not even close, in my opinion. And so, you just look at different things and you think about the money that's funneled in. It's not just a one size fits all of, oh, well, this conference has Alabama, Texas, and, LSU and Georgia, and therefore they're better. It's, well, let's think about how those schools got to be where they were. I mean, we don't even have to talk about where the money in the state of Texas is funded and how that's set up in the state constitution, because that's quite frankly ridiculous. But when we think about that and how those conferences are set up, it just adds a lot more that's under the surface that I don't think most people really think about or maybe even know about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that it's interesting, but so far it's working out for you. I'm glad, Arizona, Cincinnati, Arizona State, welcome. We'll beat you anytime, any place, anywhere. We will gladly accept you. So, all right, well, let's get into our power rankings then with that. So let's go through where we stand 6 games in. And remember our fellow loyal listeners of the show, after week 2, I think the consensus here was Texas Tech was at 14 or 15. So I'm excited to see where these 3 gentlemen have us today. So Z, go through your week 7 power rankings.
Yeah, not a ton of changes at the top. Iowa State retains the top spot for me. BYU jumps to number 2, up from number 4, and then Kansas State, they go to number 3. Not that they performed poorly. I thought that win was great, but I just think BYU, they're undefeated, and their resume is really impressive. I actually have Tech up to 4 now, probably a little bit high. I just couldn't justify putting Cincinnati or Arizona State above them, teams that you've already beat. And those are the other teams that I considered. TCU stays the same at 7. Colorado is at 8. West Virginia drops to 9. Arizona drops to 10. Oklahoma State is at 11. Baylor's at 12. Utah is at 13. UCF is at 14. Baylor's at 15. Oh, I've got Baylor on there twice. Houston is down there at 16. I'm missing a team somewhere, but they clearly didn't.
Kansas.
Oh, yeah, Kansas. Kansas is where that's who I meant to have at 12. So they're right behind Oklahoma State. Yeah, Utah's had a precipitous fall from grace. They were 3rd for me last week, and they will be 13th for me this week. That team is just in a very bad state right now.
Yeah. Clayton?
Yeah, mine, I have BYU at number 1. I feel like they have definitely been dominant. I could see an argument for Iowa State being number 1. I have them at 2. K-State, 3. Same thing as Zyler. I had Iowa State jumping them, not because K-State looked bad, but Iowa State just looked a little bit better. I also have Tech at 4. I have Colorado at 5. Arizona State 6. West Virginia 7, Cincinnati 8. Honestly, I should probably put Cincinnati above West Virginia, but that's not what I did. Utah 9, UCF 10, Baylor 11, Arizona 12, TCU 13, Oklahoma State 14, Houston 15, and Kansas in the cellar.
You just had to. You had to put them there.
I had to.
There's no other place for Kansas.
If they're
going to
keep giving me the opportunity, I'm going to keep taking it.
You're gonna, yeah. Hey, you do you, man. I'm here for it. Conrad, what about you?
Yeah, I think BYU has earned the top spot in my opinion. They've just played really well all year, exceeded expectations. So they're my number 1 team. I have Iowa State at 2. They just continue to look solid through and through. And then I, as the CEO of the Kool-Aid Factory, have Texas Tech at 3. I think you've earned it. You're 3-0 in the Big 12. As we mentioned earlier, you've beat some good teams in the Big 12 that have shown to be good that you didn't think were going to be necessarily so. So I have Tech at 3. I have us above Kansas State at 4. Colorado at 5. Arizona State at 6. Cincinnati at 7. Then West Virginia at 8. Arizona at 9. TCU pleases me to say they are 10th. Utah, I really wanted to put them worse than 11th, but I had to use my brain for a little bit, so I put them at 11. And then Oklahoma State at 12. Maybe they would be higher if Alan Bowman wasn't still their starting quarterback, as far as I understand it. UCF at 13, Baylor at 14, Kansas at 15, and then Houston bringing up the rear at 16. So I'm not as down on the Jayhawks as Clayton is, but I'm pretty down on them. So I've got them at 15 there at the bottom of the conference.
I did hear from a trusted source this weekend that Alan Bowman has been benched and will not be starting Friday against BYU. So, and that's a trusted source.
Because they're starting me.
In the know. Yeah.
They might as well be.
In the know with Oklahoma State sports. I believe
I really wanted to play him.
Yeah, well, who knows? I bet if I had to bet, I'd think he'll find a way to play against Texas Tech. I don't know if it'll be a redemption game for him or what, but Rangel, I don't think necessarily will be lighting up scoreboards next 4 weeks. So who knows what they'll do when that time comes. But yeah, it's crazy. This is kind of what we thought about the Big 12, right? You just did not know what you were getting this year. So we've seen Utah drop. We've seen Kansas drop. I mean, to have them in the bottom half of all of y'all's rankings only 6 weeks into the season is pretty crazy. And then to have Tech go from 13, 14 to 3 or 4 is also wild to see. So you just don't know what you're getting week to week. As long as we stay up at the top, that's great news for us. So it is going to be a fun second half of the season. That's for sure. So, okay, guys. Well, now it's time for the fun part of the show. Tommy Tuberville of the Week time. It's a new segment that we've added in the last couple of weeks. Zyler had the great idea to start representing the frauds of the nation here on our channel. And so that's what we do each week. We give you who the fraud of the weekend was in our mind. So Zyler, Tommy Tuberville of the Week, who you got?
Yeah, my Tommy Tuberville of the Week is the entire Associated Press and their voting process for the top 25. It's ridiculous. The AP poll doesn't matter. I'm a firm believer in that. It doesn't determine how good your team is. All it really does is build publicity and, rank matchup, things like that. It's not important, but the process that these people are using to get to some of their rankings is ridiculous. For example, Ole Miss will now be, they're 5-2 with wins over Furman, Middle Tennessee State, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, and South Carolina. That is your 18th ranked team in the country based on that really impressive win profile. Now, to be fair, I think Ole Miss is actually really good. I think that's a really solid team, but that kind of resume doesn't deserve a top 25 ranking in my mind. I know most people vote based on how we think you'll be moving forward, but to me, you have to prove it at this point, at least 7 games in for them. They need to have shown something. Another team that is, completely fraudulent, Missouri, another ranking that's ridiculous. They've beaten Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt. Maybe that is kind of an impressive win, and UMass. And they sit right there at 19. I don't know that there's plenty of Big 12 teams that I think have been more impressive for that. And to be fair, I am not couching for Texas Tech to be ranked, but the worst one in my mind was Oklahoma still receiving votes. All they have done this year is beat Temple, Houston, Tulane, got blown out by Tennessee, somehow won at Auburn, and then didn't score a touchdown against Texas, and they somehow retained votes in the top 25. That absolutely makes zero sense to me. I think there's way more teams that deserve to be acknowledged. And yeah, that's my Tommy Tuberville of the Week, the AP poll voters.
I love that. It now more than ever, the AP poll is meaningless because once the college football playoff rankings come out, you just completely forget the AP poll. It's just like a pat on your back if you're on there. Like if Tech got ranked, for instance, our social media pages, we'd be ranked 22nd in the nation, and we'd all be like, let's go, we're ranked. It means nothing, So it's kind of funny that people look at that and think it's a big deal, and they obviously don't do a very good job week to week. So I completely agree with you, Z. That is an honorable Tommy Tuberville fraud of the week. So Clayton.
Yeah, completely agree with Zyler's selection. My person this week is Ryan Day of Ohio State. I saw somebody tweet the other day that Ryan Day is the Michael Jordan of James Franklin's, and that is so true. Like, if you need a coach that's going to be almost perfect and winning meaningless games, then it's James Franklin and Ryan Day. Those are your guys. But if you want a coach who's going to win any game of any importance, do not hire Ryan Day. And like any team that's like a pulse, Michigan the last few years and now Oregon, they lose. He twice yesterday, they scored to go up 6. He kicks the extra point instead of going for 2. Obviously that comes back to bite him. So Ryan Day, the Michael Jordan of James Franklin, you are my Tommy Tuberville of the week.
Now 1-7 versus top 5 teams, which granted those are tough teams to beat, but you'd think Ohio State, probably a top 3 program in the country, would at least have an even record against top 5 teams.
Yeah, it's 100%. Crazy. The expectations are different. Like, would I take Ryan Day if in his resume, like if we were here and it's like, you're giving me 10 wins every year, like, yes, I'll take it, and losing like one game or losing in the playoff. But for them, it's like when you have to win those games to be successful, it is pretty sad to see. So Clayton, though, you are wrong. When James Franklin and Ryan Day play each other, one of them at least becomes the Michael Jordan for the weekend. So for 1 week, Ryan Day usually beats Penn State and he gets to have one quality win. So Conrad, who's your Ryan Day? Or who's your Ryan Day? Who's your Tommy Tuberville of the week?
Well, before I give you my Tommy Tuberville of the week, I need to rebut you for that outlandish take. I would take Joey McGuire every single day of the week over Ryan Day. I think Joey McGuire is one of the best coaches in college football, and Ryan Day obviously is not. So I would rather have Joey every day of the week than Ryan Day. So
Well, hey, I didn't say I would rather have him over Joey. I said I would have taken the previous resume of having 10-win seasons for the last 6 years. I would take like Ryan
Well,
Day. It doesn't mean Ryan Day's a poor coach. But I would not take Ryan Day. Well, now that I think, no, I mean, like, I'm having to really think about this, but no, like, I'm not calling for Ryan Day over Joey by any means. I'm just saying I would love to have the 10 wins or 11 wins be your floor. I would sign up for that, is all I'm saying.
I chose to misunderstand you to make a point that I wanted to make based on what was said. I knew you weren't saying that. I just chose to do that to make my point. So,
Yeah,
but that's
okay.
neither here nor there. So my Tommy Tuberville of the week is someone that has been around for a long time, way too long. He's someone that has been noted on this podcast as having an individual that absolutely loves watching him play football. He's been an individual that has beat USC twice. He was somewhat relevant. I think it was 7 or 8, 9, 10 years ago whenever he did play. It's just been so long. But now it's looking like this man is just – he just doesn't have it anymore. He's just kind of washed, and he hasn't really done anything notable. And yet people still view him as this excellent quarterback. And his name is Cam Rising of the Utah Utes. I know. He's been hurt. Well, that's fine. But he's still on the field. He's still on the field. He's still playing.
Quote unquote hurt.
The game last week. I don't care if he's hurt. I don't care if he's not. But if you're going to play, you're going to give me the right to criticize you. If you're going to walk out on that field and try and play, I'm going to criticize you. And, you know, as Brennan Baxter has famously said that he loves Cam Rising. Brennan, I don't know why. Cam Rising is not a good player anymore. I don't care if he's hurt. He's just done. This may age well. It may not. But right now, at this moment in time, on October 13th, 2024, Cam Rising is not a good college football quarterback at all. I don't care if he's hurt. So Cam Rising, I know you're watching. You are my Tommy Tuberville of the week.
Man, you just set me up for my Tommy Tuberville of the week so perfectly. You could not have done it better, actually. Because the reason I love Cam Rising so much is because he beat my Tommy Tuberville of the week, Lincoln Riley, religiously. Like, Utah just made USC just look like their little sister in the Pac-12. And I can't stand Lincoln Riley. He left us. He went to OU. He's now at USC. USC loses to Penn State at home. They have dropped to 0-3 in the Big Ten. So that decision is going swimmingly for them. And his clock management at the end of this game against Penn State, I don't know if you guys saw this, but it was horrific. It's like he was willing to play for a long field goal to win the game, and then Miller Moss throws an interception, and they go to overtime. Yes. I don't know who did that one. Was that Conrad clicking the button? Usually it is, but I don't know. Okay, it was. Okay. And then it was just horrible. And so Lincoln Riley, kind of like we're talking about with Ryan Day, just doesn't seem like he can go get the big win when he needs it. And USC, since he's gone there, even with Caleb Williams, they haven't won anything. Even losing to Tulane in the Cotton Bowl as well when Caleb Williams was there, losing to said Cam Rising. So Lincoln Riley, you're my Tommy Tuberville of the week. And Cam Rising, stick with it, man. I don't want you to have to play us. I just want you to get healthy. I think you're a good dude. I think you're a good quarterback when you are healthy. Key term there, being healthy. So anyways, there's my Tommy
Which
Tuberville
is never.
of the week. Yeah, well, when he beat Lincoln Riley. So just
Lincoln
saying,
Riley didn't play on the field, I didn't think.
Okay. We're not even gonna get into that argument and go through that today. So anyways, boys, that was a lot of fun. There's our Tommy Tubervilles of the week. You can check them out every Monday. And Zyler, with that, man, let's transition and end the show with our tech trivia question of the day.
All right, guys, we're going to test your ball knowledge for, our opponents that we've played this season. We're 5-1, but our opponents outside of playing us have been in 31 different games. It's been a good season for a lot of the teams that have played us outside of playing against Texas Tech. Do you know the combined record over the 31 games our opponents have played, not involving Texas Tech?
Oof.
22-5.
There's 31 games.
That's sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
Whoa.
Sorry.
You're
That was
almost there, man.
26-5. Sorry, I was an even number. 26-5. That's on me, boys. 26-5 is my guess because I know they've done really well.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I'm trying to add up the wins.
I'm gonna go 27-4.
Okay, Conrad 26, Clayton 27. I know it's not 28-3, so I'll go 24-7.
You are all close, but none of you are actually correct. It's 25-6. That
Dang.
.806 winning percentage is the highest in the FBS through this past weekend. So teams that you've played against have the highest winning percentage of anybody in the FBS. So shout out to all those teams doing well after we beat them.
Yeah, that only helps us, and that's great. Great question.
Not in the AP
That's
poll.
awesome.
Not in the AP poll.
Not in the minds of the AP poll, right? But it doesn't matter. When we beat Baylor on Saturday, and I believe the college football playoff ranking will be released that next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's after week 7 still, or are they changing it now? I'm not sure. Usually it's after week 7.
I'll look.
But
If we beat Baylor by double digits and we'll not in the initial top 25, I'm going to be so mad.
It's 6-1 and 4-0 in a Power 4 conference. You have to be in the college football rankings, I would think.
I think they start on November 5th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, they start late now.
That's
because they would start it after week 7 normally, I thought. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's
after
the ninth.
That's after week 11.
Gosh.
We only have 3 games after that, don't we?
Yeah, that seems really late. So, anyways, well, boys, that was awesome. And thank you all, loyal listeners. We hope you've enjoyed the show up to this point. You can follow us on our YouTube channel, The Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe there. And then you can follow all of our social medias on a link tree, but it's The Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast, or on X at The Broadway Shuffle. So, gentlemen, we'll be back on Thursday to go over more Baylor hate week, get through a preview and do all that. And we might even have a guest on the show again. We'll see. We're working on that, but I'll leave it there just in case. So with Zyler, Clayton, and Conrad, I'm Brennan, and we will see y'all on Thursday. Wreck 'em.
Thanks, Brennan.
Wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.